Hi, welcome back to Joe's RC Corner. Apologize for my voice. I've been a little under the weather this week, but we're going to go ahead and finish up the SIG Colt build, so stay tuned. Okay, so today we're going to be hinging the control surfaces, the elevator and rudder. We're going to be using these Dubro small nylon hinges. We're going to epoxy those in, and we're going to make sure we put some of that Vaseline on the hinge joint itself so that the epoxy does not affect the hinge itself. So we're going to go ahead and start off with the rudder first. So let me grab my hinging tools and we'll get started on that. So we have here a Dubro hinging tool. And how this works is it clamps on the surface itself. I'm going to turn this around a little bit so you guys can see. So it clamps onto the surface and it gives you a slot right into the center of the control surface itself, or of the stab. So let me go ahead and we'll do this, and I'll be right back. Okay, so now that we have these hinges all hinged, all slotted, and everything is fitting properly, we're going to go ahead and move forward now, and we are going to put some grease, or actually I use petroleum jelly on the hinge itself, and then we're going to use a little bit of 5-minute epoxy, or 30-minute epoxy actually. We're going to put it on the ends here and then slip them into place. Once they're in place, then we'll put the control linkage on, or the control surface on as well, and let that cure, and then we can start working on getting the control horns on here and the linkage through the fuselage and get those connected. Along with that, we are also going to do some additional trim on the fuselage sides and on the tail here. In blue and the red pinstripe. So stay tuned, guys. We're going to keep going on this and get this completed today. Okay, now that I have my equipment here, go ahead and pull the rudder off as well. So first things first, I'm going to get the petroleum jelly out. I have a toothpick in here for this. We're just going to coat the hinge part of it here with this jelly. This will stop the epoxy from sticking to this and causing these to get bound up. Just don't get it on the sections where you do want the glue to adhere to. Okay, now that I have those all epoxied, or I'm sorry, covered in the petroleum jelly, we're going to go ahead and mix up some of the epoxy so we can get these glued in place. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put it on the ends because it'll squeeze out some. So just a little bit on each end, and just not too much. You don't want a whole lot extra, because if you got too much squeezing out, they will get glued together. Okay, and then we'll feed that in. Again, a little bit on the ends. Both sides, just on the tip of it. We'll slide that in. And this bottom one, this one was cut specifically to fit the rudder. So again, a little bit on each end. Just a light coat. You don't want it to ooze out too much. Now we'll do the same thing on the elevator. All right, now we do the elevator the same way. We'll go ahead and slide this one on there. Okay, so these are all hinged now. We're just going to wait for them to cure. We'll give them about 30 minutes or so for that to cure. Once these are cured, we can start working on hooking up the linkages themselves, and we'll be ready to move forward with the final trim and start flying it. Okay, so we'll let that cure and come back in about 30 minutes when this is all cured off, and we'll work on the setting up the control linkages. Stay tuned, guys. Okay, everybody, so we're back, and the control surfaces are now hinged. The epoxy has cured, so they are now permanently mounted there. Put the epoxy off to the side. And as you can see, using the petroleum jelly, it kept them from gluing the hinges together. All right, so now I've already cut one of the control rods to fit, as you can see here, and it lines up perfectly with the elevator. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to grab the supply control horns that are going to go on the surfaces here. I'm going to snip the, excuse me. So we're going to snip those the plastic tabs off of these. Okay. And we're going to line them up. So the holes that are on the control horn right here, those holes need to be directly over the pivot point of the control surface. So when you get these lined up, these holes where the control rod is going to be touching has to be lined up with that. So we're going to go ahead and get that started here and get that mounted. We now have the elevator connected to the stabilizer and hooked up to the servo. Now we're going to do the rudder, and then I'll be back when that's done. Okay, so I got the other one soldered on, and this is going to be for the rudder. So we have a threaded end, and we have a soldered on clevis on the other side, and that's going to connect to the servo. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the servo arm on this one now, so we can get that centered as well. that part is now completed. We're going to go ahead and do a quick blue trim on the sides of the fuselage and glue the rods here, epoxy these the elastic holds in place, and should be ready to go then from there on. So just stick with me, guys. We're just about on the home stretch. We're going to go ahead and clean up the surfaces here and go ahead and finish the covering portion and maybe go maiden it tomorrow. So I'll leave the camera rolling while I finish this up, and we'll see how this all comes out. So that's all we have for today. The aircraft is now completed. Hopefully we'll be able to maiden it tomorrow if the weather is nice. So that's all I have for today. Keep building, keep flying, and I'll see you on the next build, guys. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe.